Hello everyone, welcome back to The Media Couple. I'm Rory.
And I'm Sophie.
Where we break down the latest in film, TV and entertainment from an insider's perspective. Now today, we're talking Bond, we're talking Bezos, and we're talking...
Rotten
Tomatoes game. Over to you, Sophie.
Yes, we are talking Bond, Bezos and Rotten Tomatoes. That's what we've got coming up today, which is going to be good. We're talking Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez's wedding because, I mean, I feel like you kind of couldn't avoid that.
Absolutely. It was everywhere.
Everywhere and anywhere. And I think there's actually, there's a few opinions that I think we need to air. And I think a lot that we need to talk about with that because it's media related. Bond, obviously, the new director has been announced. Yes. So we're going to get into that. We're also going to talk about who is top of the list for Amazon because obviously the rights were sold to Amazon. And then we are bringing back the Rotten Tomatoes game.
Come on.
This week. So this week we will be talking all things wedding related. So you got that to look forward to at the end of the episode. So to start, let's jump in to the Bezos-Sanchez wedding. Some people are deeming it the wedding of the century. I mean, it kind of did feel like a royal wedding.
It did. It felt quite bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of celebrities were invited.
Yeah. I mean, look, let me just give you a little bit of a rundown. For those of you who have been living under a rock for the past 2 weeks and have somehow managed to avoid it, I am jealous of you. Well done. But, you know, it's been everywhere. So they got married in Venice.
Yeah.
They got married in Venice on the 27th of June.
Nice.
It's estimated to cost anywhere between 20 million and 50 million, which is, I kind of have a hard time imagining how much money that actually really is.
The guest list wasn't even that big though, was it?
No, they say there were somewhere around 200 guests.
Yeah.
So that is a lot of money for 200 guests. It wasn't a huge wedding. It wasn't like the Ambani wedding that we all saw and heard about that Kim Kardashian got invited to, which had hundreds, I mean, thousands, I think,
thousands
on the
of
guests.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. But this wedding was, as they put it, small and intimate.
Yes.
Which is very interesting, I think, when you look at who the guest list included.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just list off the names of the guests who we all know who were invited.
Yeah.
Oprah, Leonardo DiCaprio, Kim Kardashian, Kris Kardashian, Corey Gamble, Khloe Kardashian, Kylie Jenner, Kendall Jenner, Tom Brady, Orlando Bloom, Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, Bill Gates, Usher, Gayle King, and Sydney Sweeney, which felt a little bit out of left field.
Oh, yeah.
Those were just the people that we saw, right? The guest list hasn't been announced officially.
Right. So Jeff just invited all of his best friends, obviously.
And Ellie Goulding.
Yeah, obviously.
Because obviously Jeff Bezos and Ellie Goulding.
They go way back.
Like this, guys.
She's a Prime member.
Look, I mean, I don't mean to poke fun at it because, you know, you're allowed to get married and you're allowed to invite who you want to invite. But this didn't feel like a wedding that was private and intimate. It felt like a wedding that was specifically created and the guest list was specifically, you know, listed in a way that was meant to attract attention. It was like it was a PR play. That's how it felt. You know, there were protests in Venice. Yeah, I think they tried to, or maybe they did, put inflatable crocodiles, you know, because, you know, all this wedding stuff, all the money that they were spending, they're like, Venice has a problem with tourists.
Yes, already.
You know, like this
has a massive problem with like overcrowding and stuff.
Exactly. And I think, to be completely honest as well, billionaires aren't necessarily looked at as people who are nice people. You don't become a billionaire. They're
not massively loved, are they?
No, because you don't become a billionaire by being a nice person. Let's be completely honest. Anyways, it was pretty much an extreme display of, quite frankly, obscene wealth. And I just wonder, they could have gotten married in public. So I wonder what your thoughts are on why you think they did it this way. Do you think it was sort of a way to show off their soft power?
Yes, I do. My short answer, yes. I think you actually hit the nail on the head earlier when you said it felt like a royal wedding. I reckon they were going for that sort of vibe. I mean, it's really funny because I saw like some images online of like the carpet.
Yeah.
Right. And it goes to show that even with all that wealth, sometimes taste, you just don't have it, you know?
I don't think taste really came into it. It kind of, but again, right, you can have that kind of carpet. I wouldn't at my wedding, but if you want to have it at yours, that's fine. You know, I'm going to judge it, but I'm not, you know, but I think it's important to qualify here that we're not talking about this, I think, in the sense of gossip, because I think this wedding became so big, and I don't want to be looking at this from like a tabloidy perspective, which I know you're not, but I think this wedding actually says a lot more about our society and where our media is at this point than I think anything else. The guest list alone, it felt like they had chosen them based on who's who in the media world.
It was almost like a casting process.
Yes.
It was like he was casting for a film.
Well, yeah, because you think you've got the Kardashians, right, who are reality, Instagram, royalty.
Yeah.
You've got Leonardo DiCaprio, arguably, actor royalty.
100%, yeah.
You've got Oprah, who's television royalty.
So famous.
Gayle King, television royalty. Sydney Sweeney, who's like Gen Z royalty.
Yeah.
It felt like a way for them to display, I have this power. I have all of this power.
Yeah.
I can get anyone I want. And also for everyone to turn up. It felt like, the old school way that the Hollywood system used to work, where you'd have to go to your boss's wedding to like pay your respects.
100%.
That's kind of
it's
how
all about appearances.
Yeah, that's kind of how it felt. And it felt like a big PR play, because they could have done this in private.
Of course. And still had like the luxurious wedding that they did have. Yeah. And the fact that they closed half a city to get these people in.
Well, they had to, because of, the obscene number of private jets that were flying in.
Absolutely.
And, the security alone, I don't know, it just felt like a very obvious choice to choose somewhere like Venice, right? Which is, yes, Venice is beautiful, but also, wouldn't you want it to be a bit more private and a little bit more intimate? No, you wouldn't, if you're trying to present yourself as a sort of royalty, new wave celebrity in a way. And I feel like he's trying to show off his power.
Absolutely.
And that felt like also the way that Sanchez was, cover of Vogue. It just was very interesting, because these people are just rich.
Yeah.
That's all they are.
Yeah, they just own a very big company.
They're just rich.
Yeah.
Like what have they done for society realistically to warrant us all to be so interested? It felt like a royal wedding in the sense that, these people are the wealthiest people and they have the most power. We have to watch it.
Yeah.
And
we have to be looking at them.
And it's like the royal wedding without the titles.
Yeah. There was almost like a dystopian vibe about it. It was quite Black Mirror-y. It was strange. It left me feeling with a sense of like, oh my goodness, like all these people just control the world and we're all just sort of like puppets in this game that they're in,
Exactly. And I think that wedding showed to people how much we do not actually control our own sort of narrative. In this idea of social media being, and the media that we consume being something that we can control. Yeah. Right? Well, I can choose what I'm watching.
Can you? Because the algorithm already pushes that data because it knows you better than you know you almost.
Exactly.
Right?
And it's like he puts his fingers into every aspect of our society.
Yeah.
There's someone at that wedding that every person in this world knows. Like Leonardo
and that we've
DiCaprio.
Probably been influenced by.
Yeah, exactly. Like Kim Kardashian is influences a certain group of people in the same way that Leonardo DiCaprio influences
100%.
a certain group of people.
Yeah.
Like Leonardo DiCaprio is from he's known to be environmentally an activist.
Yeah,
right?
he's like an ambassador at the UN or whatever. Yeah.
Why is he going to Jeff Bezos' wedding?
How did he get there?
But also, like, that doesn't make sense for me for his image.
Yeah, of course.
Right? I don't know. I just thought it was a very interesting way to show off your soft power.
I'm quite surprised that some world leaders weren't there. I'll be honest with you, because I fully expected that, and that's what I mean. It's like these like what you said, these owners of these enormous tech companies.
Yeah,
they essentially think that they're presidents and that they're almost like kings and queens.
I mean, sorry, we did an episode about presidents and tech companies not long ago. But interesting. So how we spoke about Ellie Goulding being there.
Yeah.
So Ellie Goulding actually sang your song.
Oh, okay.
At the wedding, which is the same song that she sang at Kate and William's wedding.
Well, there you go.
In 2011. And I think that's a very interesting choice to make.
Yeah.
Right? They're aligning themselves with royalty directly by
100%.
doing that.
Yeah.
And also showing, well, the royals could get this, but we can get this too.
Yes, absolutely.
And choosing the same song, I just think It's basic, but you think about it in the States, right? That there is no royalty.
No.
Like there isn't. So,
No.
so who becomes the royals? The billionaires.
Yeah.
But I just think, you look at our royals and the scrutiny that they get put under. It's not the same for the billionaires in the States.
And as well, like our royal family are expected to do charity functions, aren't they? That's like part of the deal.
Yeah.
Whereas for these tech billionaires, there ain't nothing like that. They don't have to commit to those type of things.
No, exactly. There's a little bit less service involved in being a billionaire than there is being an actual royal.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But let's not get into the royal
I am
versus not royal debate.
Yeah. I'm quite surprised that the whole thing wasn't televised.
Yeah, I know.
And like live streamed. I mean, I must be honest.
Well, it basically was because people were live posting from the wedding.
Yeah.
The celebrities were live posting from the wedding as well, right? Which again, it's not like they said, oh no, please don't post anything online.
Yeah, we want this to be quite private.
No, they were allowing the celebs to post online in real time.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, okay, so you like this was constructed. Like they created this. You know what I mean? Like they absolutely thought this through.
Yeah.
There's no way. There is no way that they didn't think about how the media would react to them.
No.
And I just feel like,
saying
what
alone
a
that
choice.
we're gonna close the city to have our wedding is already that's a massive power play.
Yeah. I mean, I just think what a choice. Like it's just such an interesting play from them. And I'm like, I don't want to pretend like we can't see it.
Yeah.
Like we can see it and we can comment on it. Can we change it? No.
No, you can't. You can't.
But anyways, speaking of, power plays and moves and Bezos, Amazon, MGM Studios. Let's move on to that.
Let's move out. Jeff also owns that.
Yeah, he owns everything. It's really scary. Well, no, but you know what I mean. So Amazon have obviously bought Bond, the franchise.
Yeah.
Again, another interesting thing because that's like their sort of legacy, big prestige kind of play.
Absolutely, they're big,
And they have officially announced that there is a new director. Denis Villeneuve will be the next James Bond director. So
really happy about that.
Are you?
I am, yeah.
Interesting.
I am really happy about that.
So for those of you who don't know who Denis Villeneuve is, he directed Dune.
Yeah.
So you should know who he is. Dune, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, just some of the...
I love how they've gone. They've gone with like a really different type of director. They've gone with a really sci-fi focused director, which I think he could actually make the series really interesting.
Well, okay, so I mean, no doubt the series is going to be beautiful.
Yes.
Okay.
It will be shot
going to
beautiful.
be cinematic, not the series, the film.
Yeah.
It's going to be cinematically amazing. I mean, that Denis Villeneuve is known for making beautiful films. You look at Dune just alone.
Yeah.
And
the cinematography is next level.
And just the way that everything is constructed in a way that is supposed to be visually stunning.
The mise en scène.
The mise en scène. The mise en scène. Exactly. It is. But
what are your reservations? I feel like you're not vibing with Denis.
Denis Villeneuve is not known for his tongue-in-cheek Britishness.
No.
Right?
No.
And Bond kind of needs that.
He does.
He's
kind of like a part of his vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I worry that this Bond is going to turn into Bourne.
Okay. It could.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could get quite close.
Not because I think they want that, but because they've chosen somebody who is not known for his comedic films, shall we say?
What do you mean? June's hilarious.
Look, and I'm not saying that we need a comedy director, obviously not.
Yeah.
But I just think there's an element of
wit and charm
which
to Bond.
also is British,
yes.
inherently British.
Yeah, and sarcasm.
Exactly. That is not in Denis Villeneuve's wheelhouse.
Or sarcasm.
Look, I don't know. He could be very sarcastic. He's French Canadian, okay? So
he could be, but he also could not be.
Yeah.
So it's a Denis, tell us, are you sarcastic?
Look, I don't doubt that he wants to do it justice.
Well, he's a fan, isn't he? Didn't he come out and say, I'm a massive fan?
He said, I'm a diehard Bond fan.
Diehard Bond fan.
He said, I'm a diehard Bond fan. To me, he's sacred territory. Great. Wonderful. You're saying all the right things, Denis.
I mean, to be fair, I like it.
You're saying all the right things, but... are you going to be able to bring the tongue-in-cheek, like slightly, questionable, morals.
Sorry, Sophie, can I just ask quickly, just to butt in here, was that your second question to Dennis when you were, choosing him to be the director of the next Bond series? You said, are you sarcastic?
The first question is, where are you from?
Yes. Canadian? French Canadian? Yes.
Yeah. The second question was, are you funny?
Yeah. Make me laugh, Dennis.
Both of those answers were not the answers I was looking for. So I don't know how he made it. But look, I'm not saying he's not going to be great. I just don't want to lose the Britishness of Bond.
Do you feel like a British director, do you know how they always say like a British actor always has to play Bond?
Yeah.
Do you feel like a British director should always direct Bond?
No. I just think you have to have a British sensibility about you.
Because it was a bit odd, wasn't it? For years they'd always had British singers sing the theme song, right? But then when they had Billie Eilish do it, that was like breaking away from the norm, and having an American do it was quite like a big thing. Yeah. But that actually turned out all right. That was great. That was a good one.
I think the thing is, obviously, selling to Amazon, an American company, right? It's a British legacy show. The whole point of Bond is that he has this Britishness about him. It's now being creatively led by an American company.
Yeah.
It's now going to have a director who doesn't necessarily in his work show a British sensibility to sarcasm and wit. Not to say he can't do it.
Yeah.
I'll be pleasantly surprised if he can.
Yeah.
But he hasn't been chosen for his back catalogue that shows he can do both sides of the coin.
Of course, yeah.
Right? And then you add on who they want or who has been reported that they want.
Yeah, so who are they thinking to, because the director is big, but bigger is the actor they're going to cast.
So it's reported they want someone under 30.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
So that pushes a lot of people, which I think is really interesting because that's a young Bond.
That's a young Bond, which we haven't seen for a while.
Yes.
Because even like Piers Brosnan, he wasn't a particularly young Bond, was he? And then Daniel Craig, I wouldn't say, would you say?
No, I definitely, under 30, I'm 29.
Yes.
So my age is, and I'm like, oh, that's young to be Bond, but that's what they want. And I get why they want that because they want longevity of the actor. They obviously want the actor to be playing this character for a long time.
Well, because it's like a 10-year project, basically.
Exactly. So, or, even potentially longer.
Yeah.
So I get it, but also interesting.
So who's on the list?
Front runners are, reportedly,
okay,
Jacob Elordi,
okay,
who is Australian.
Okay, interesting.
Tom Holland,
yep,
who is Spider-Man.
Yep.
And Harris Dickinson, who I don't mind.
Okay.
And I just think if it ends up being Jacob Elordi.
I don't like that.
Now, George Lazenby was Australian as well, right? So it has been done before.
He didn't do many Bond films, though, did he? He did one. There you go. That says it all.
Yeah, he did one.
One's enough for you, George.
Yes, but... So if you've got Amazon, an American company, Denis Villeneuve, a Canadian director, French-Canadian director, and Jacob Elordi, an Australian Bond. I'm like, where is the Britishness in this? What's happened? Right? David Heyman is producing, so...
I know, that's good.
Yeah, he at least understands Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And did that.
And he understands how to create a universe, which I think is the big thing with Bond.
Yes, so I get that, but I'm worried that it's starting to lose what made it Bond, and what made it Bond was, in my opinion, the... essentially Britishness of it. Otherwise, he's just Bourne. Yeah,
true. Yeah. Because I feel like that's the thing. Like, Bond was someone who was likable as well, right? Although, he could be a bit frustrating in scenarios and do things like that. He was charming, he was witty, he was action-packed. That was like the big thing with Bond. But yes, I know what you mean. It is verging on the side of Bourne. Maybe it will be a surprise casting. Matt Damon.
Listen, Matt.
I am Jason Bond. Dennis, we told you no.
Because when you think about it, like James Bond, Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
Come on, Jason Bourne is the American James Bond. That is basically what it is. So I'm like, we already have that. But I don't know. What do you think makes Bond different to Bourne then? Besides the British versus Americanism? I think
his sort of to me, Bourne is not charming or witty or funny in any way. Jason Bourne is which I love Jason Bourne, right? Big fan of those movies, but he's straight on the nose, action. And he's just always I'm just in a mood.
He's a badass.
Yeah, like Jason Bourne's just always in a mood. You could never say like, hey Jason, how's your day today? He'd be like, well, I killed 3 people before I got here, so pretty good.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, I've
like no emotion.
Yeah, like I'm in Rio now. I was in Paris 3 hours ago. You do the math.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That sort of vibe. That's Jason, right? You can never just have a nice beer with him and be like, cool, let's move on. Whereas I feel like with Daniel Craig's Bond, me and him could have a beer and he'd be like, Rory.
He'd tell you all about life.
Yeah, and I'd be like, what was it like driving a car that had like rockets in it? And he'd be like, yeah, it's awesome. He goes, absolute nightmare in the passenger seat though, because if I push the eject button, I've lost a lot of friends that way.
He's just suave and cool, but in a funny, endearing way.
I could high five him. Do you know what I mean? Like I could walk past and be like, Bond.
Do you think?
Yeah, and I reckon he'd go for it. I reckon he'd be a bit
I don't know about that.
I reckon he'd be a bit like, look, I don't want to be like rude here, but like you can't high five me in the office.
That wasn't cool.
Like I'm Bond, so if we could just 2 steps back, whereas Jason would probably just break my arm. Yeah. Because he'd think I was trying to assassinate him. But yeah, that's the key thing, I think. I think in the casting, that's where it's going to really, really have the impact. Yeah. Which is why I think, personally for me, I'm not a massive fan of Tom Holland being Bond either. Mm-hmm. I think he just looks like a baby. Like, I think he's a great actor, really versatile and really cool. But I thought he was amazing as Spider-Man. But in my head, that is the type of character he can play.
Yeah. Tom Holland is also in, I think it's Christopher Nolan's next movie, The Odyssey.
He is, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, he's kind of already going in that direction.
Yeah, true.
But yeah. Anyways, moving on. We've got the Rotten Tomatoes game this week. So for those of you who do not know what the Rotten Tomatoes game, this is it. Basically, I give Rory a title of a film. He then tells me what he thinks the critics and audience score is. I then tell him if he's right or wrong. We talk about the film, move on to the next one.
And I win every game.
No.
And no.
And no.
And no.
Right, so first one, The Proposal.
The Proposal. Big fan of that film.
Sandra Bullock, Ryan Reynolds.
Bullock. Yeah, big fan. Audience score, 63%.
Okay.
Critics score, 70.
Ooh, okay. Critically, 45%.
Yeah, okay. Went a bit too high on the critics. They're not they're not up for a laugh.
Audience score 68.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fine.
I think that critic score is not very fair because that's a funny film.
That is a good film. Yeah.
And she's great in it.
Yeah, that was like in her phase of when Sandra Bullock was doing like loads of really funny films because she's underrated. Like she's a funny actress. She is funny. Like, she's funny. She's dramatic. I love Sandra Bullock. She's Miss Congeniality.
Exactly. Right, this is a firm favourite of yours, so I had to put it in here. Bridesmaids.
Oh, no, 10 out of 10. I mean, 100%. 100% would
Across the board.
Across the board. I mean, if you haven't, we're going to get the critics on it. No, I'm joking. I can't. They wouldn't have given it that high. I'm going to go for 75% critics score. Okay. Audience score, 80.
Oh, okay. Audience score is 76%.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
I was so close.
Critically, 89%.
Oh, okay. The critics like that one.
They did. And honestly, I think the reason 76 is because it's women being funny. So let's be honest.
Like,
that's why.
Some people don't like that.
Yeah, because women, scary.
Shut the door, Phil. Yeah. Phil, shut the door. There's women out there making jokes.
Exactly.
Who knows what they'll do when they're in here. Good Lord. They're being funny over there.
Exactly. But I agree with the critic score. I think it was a really funny, good film.
I agree.
And I'm glad it did well.
Yeah.
I think it could have done higher. Mamma Mia.
Mamma Mia. Yep. Here we go again. Mama.
Yep.
Audience score is 65%.
Okay.
And critic score is 70.
Okay. Critically, critically, it got 55%.
Oh dear.
Audience, 66%.
Great. What did I say?
You did not say that. You said 65.
You did not say 66. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that
it's fine, isn't it?
It's a fun film.
Yeah. Like it's the type of film you'd bung on and go, that was fine. That was easy. I think the others were better. The ones before, especially Bridesmaids. Yeah.
Right. Okay. This one's a bit out of left field, but it does, in my book, count as a wedding film. The Hangover.
Okay, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does. They get married at the end.
Yeah.
I really love the first one. So
spoiler alert for those of you who haven't.
Sorry. If you've never seen it, where have you been? Hungover. Hey. Slow down there. I'm going to go with audience score 82%, critically 70%.
Oh, you are so close. Critically, 79%.
Oh.
Audience, 84.
Yeah, I knew it's quite high. Those films got a little bit progressively worse as they went on, but the first one, a bit, they dropped off a lot. I think 1 Hangover, we could have been fine, but 3, I mean, yeah, you're not waking up from that one.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, there we go. That is that.
That concludes it. And on that bombshell.
On that note, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for listening and tuning in. And we put these out every Wednesday.
No,
sorry.
We put them out every Thursday.
Every Thursday. I'm losing my mind. We put these out every Thursday. And we thank you guys for listening and tuning in. Please do like, subscribe if you're watching this, or drop us a comment. If you're listening, please do give us a rating or give us a review. It really does help other people find us, listen to us. So yeah, thanks for being here, guys. And we will see you next week on our next episode.
Thank you so much, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.